Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing another movie review, so hopefully you find this one interesting. This movie is a crime film from the USA, English language, released in the year 2017, directed by S. Craig Zahler, and this film is called Brawl in Cell Block 99. So Brawl in Cell Block 99 starts off with our main character, Bradley. He's this massive, intimidating figure. He's got a tattoo on the back of his head, and he looks like the type of person that you don't want to spend any time with until you actually learn the kind of person that he is. He's got principles, he's got good values, and he seems like a decent enough bloke, but he's a victim to his fists. So he's got a job as a tow truck driver, but unfortunately this particular day he gets let go, and so he's very disappointed by this, but disappointment is going to be the last thing on his mind when he realises that his girlfriend or his wife is actually having an affair on him, and she's been having this affair for the past 3 months. So he initially is very angry, but then he calms down a little bit and he wants to try and rekindle the relationship. He wants to correct the errors that they had in the past, and he wants to start over again. And so she accepts this, and then 18 months pass and we realise that they are living in a very good house now, and that he actually has a job as a drug runner. And the reason why he's being the drug runner for this Mexican drug cartel is that he wants the money for his unborn child. We realise that this wife is now pregnant with their first child, and so he wants to give this child the best environment as possible. So he's doing these drug runs, very dangerous, but the money is too good to refuse. And on this particular night, a drug drop-off goes horribly wrong. So some of the Mexicans that are with Bradley are killed, and Bradley is arrested. So the Mexican drug cartel has lost a lot of money in this bust, and they're very angry about this. So they decide to kidnap Bradley's pregnant wife, and they tell Bradley that they're gonna kill her if Bradley doesn't do what they want. And what they want Bradley to do is wipe out a figure inside a jail that is a threat to them. And so this is the way that he's gonna repay them. So the only problem is that Bradley is in this medium security level prison, but he needs to get into cell block 99, which is a maximum security prison. In order to do that, he creates a lot of problems in his environment, and that gets him transferred. But then he realises that cell block 99 is a very inhumane place that has to be seen to be believed, and it's going to basically put everything on the line. So whether or not he can get to the target and redeem himself and save his family is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Brawl in Cell Block 99. To say that I was excited for this film was an absolute understatement. I'm a massive fan of S. Craig Zahler ever since I saw his film Bone Tomahawk, which is a western combined with adventure and horror. I thought that was an overall experience that I enjoyed from start to finish. It had some of the most shocking, repulsive violence that you'll ever see. So it was a director that was really pushing the limits. And so if memory serves me correctly, I gave that movie 4.5 stars. That was on the brink of being a masterpiece. So for that reason, expectation levels were very high for Cell Block 99. A lot of people have been going on about how much of a masterpiece this film is, how much of an absolute masterful performance that Vince Vaughn gives in this movie that really complements the direction of the film. So, and naturally, that's very hard to shake off. It's very hard to go into a film giving it every opportunity to impress without actually giving it that high pedestal. And so, coming into the movie, I was really psyched. After I saw the first few minutes, I thought, yes, this is going to be an absolute classic. But at the end of the film, to say that I was disappointed is another massive understatement. Is because I believe that the caricature nature of Brawl in Cell Block 99 really gets in the way of a film that really should have been a lot better than it was. And I'll go into the criticisms I have of it a little bit later, but what I liked about Brawl in Cell Block 99 and what prevents it from being a complete disaster is what made Bone Tomahawk so good is its script. And the script allows these characters to blossom into something that you weren't expecting, especially Vince Vaughn's character. Vince Vaughn on the outside is this intimidating figure. You don't want to be around him. You get the sense that he's just this brute who is being a slave to his fists, and there are some scenes that show you the sheer strength of this guy. But when you actually get to know him, the director actually gives the script enough power for you to actually relate to this guy. He's got principles, he's got values that actually makes him a nice guy. It actually makes you believe that you could spend an afternoon with him, having lunch with him, and you really wouldn't be that scared, because you believe that if you're not getting on the wrong side of him, you're going to be okay. And so he's doing these despicable acts of violence later in the film, but there's a conflicting sort of emotional response to this character. In that one side, you hate what he's doing, but you don't hate the person himself. And so you're supporting him. You want him to save his family. You want him to get out of this horrible environment, but at the same time, he's doing horrible things. And so it shows you a complexity to this character that is not really shown in a lot of films, is that if a character is doing really violent things, initially, you think he's a bad guy, and a lot of films give you that bad guy impression. But in this movie, I felt as though he's been forced to do it, and he's a victim of his circumstances. He's a victim of his environment, and that it shows you that violence is a way to solve a lot of problems unfortunately. As much as I want to as you want to say that violence is a really bad thing, sometimes violence is a necessity of life. And I think the movie shows that very well, in that some environments you can't really solve problems just by talking. You actually have to use pretty horrific means in order to get what you want, in order to save the day. And so the movie's showing you how far you'll go for your family, how far you'll go for the ones that you love. It also shows you the barbarity of the prison system and how unforgiving and cruel that can be, but it is done in a very exaggerated way, which is ultimately the problem of the film. So the cinematography is very good. Once again, it's very reminiscent of Bone Tomahawk in a very slow build-up, but what I liked about it was the absorbing nature of the script, and that's a sign of a very, very good writer. So not only is this guy a great director, but he's a great writer because he actually captures you in the script, and you never feel bored, although something, in a traditional sense, two people talking at a table would be very boring. But if the script is good enough, it will really capture you. And that's something that Quentin Tarantino does so well. And that's something that this director does so well as well, is that the script is there for a reason. And this is why the characters are the dimensions that they actually have. And so Vince Vaughn, he does give a very good performance. Although it wasn't a knockout performance, I still believe that he didn't really portray a wide range of emotions, but he portrayed enough to really give you that insight into this character that, just because he's doing horrible things, it doesn't mean he's a horrible person. You've got a performance from Jennifer Carpenter that was okay. She didn't really have to do too much. And Udo Kier and Don Johnson give performances that I thought were very caricature. And this is ultimately the problem I have with the film, is that yes, on one side you have this absorbing sort of character and this sort of commentary on the harsh realities of life, but at the same time you've got a caricature nature that really defeats the shocking purpose of the film. So what I mean by that is when he goes into this prison, this is where the suspension of disbelief happens, and this is where it feels like a caricature. It feels like even Story of Ricky, which is a real problem, because Story of Ricky, or Ricky-O, if you don't know what that is, it was a classic sort of martial arts film from Hong Kong that had really excessive violence, but it was so excessive and so fake looking that it gave it a certain level of charm. It was actually quite funny. And this movie has that same problem in the special effects. I was very surprised at how bad some of the special effects looked, is that it wanted to give you an insane sort of violent scene, but you could clearly tell that it was fake. You could clearly tell that someone who was about to get their head stomped in was actually a doll. And this is what reminded me of Story of Ricky, and that is a massive problem in a film of this nature. Now, I don't know whether or not that was deliberate, whether or not it was just a deliberate throwback to 70s exploitation films. I'm not sure, but I just felt as though there was a lot of moments in the film that felt like a different film, was that all of a sudden it went into this very light-hearted approach where it was using this very comical sort of violence, and that comical violence kind of defeated the purpose that I believe the film really should have been. Now, coming into a movie with the title Brawl in Cell Block 99, you're not expecting a film that's going to be so serious, but I sort of was taking itself a little bit more, maybe lessen the violence a little bit, not try so hard to shock an audience, because if you try so hard, sometimes that can backfire because it doesn't look as good. And I don't believe it looked as good in this film, so it does lessen the impact quite considerably. I'm not going to say that this is one of the most shockingly violent movies in a very long time, because the violence just doesn't look as good as it did in his other film, Bone Tomahawk. So you've got the prison system that is very exaggerated. There are things that happen there that you would never guess in reality. And once again, that could show you the bizarre and sort of the brutal nature of the prison system. But when you do it to a certain point, you feel as though it's taking it out of the realms of realism, and it's kind of destroying the impact that the movie really wants. And so that was the biggest disappointment of this film. I just thought that if you went down different paths, it could have been a lot better. And so I'm still saying that S. Craig Zahler is a fantastic director. I can't wait to see what he does next, but I just think Brawl in Cell Block 99 was a step back from Bone Tomahawk. I don't share the love that this movie has. Each to their own. If you like it, then good on you. But for me, you guys know that I'm brutally honest. I'm not worried about the people who can't take a difference of opinion and will click dislike. I've got so many dislikes in so many of my reviews that obviously people don't like the fact that I'm brutally honest, but that's not going to stop me, and that's the reason why I'm only going to give Brawl in Cell Block 99 2.5 stars. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.